Yo, what's up, people? This is Drakodan, and this is going to be Boktai 2 Soul Boy Django. So, if you're not familiar at all with this series or how this run is going to work, this is going to be pretty special. First thing to note is, I'm going to try and give you a little view. We're playing on a DS where the actual physical cartridge might not be easy to see, but the physical cartridge has a solar panel installed in it, and this game uses real UV energy. Now, I can't be outdoors, but I can use an artificial source of light, like this UV flashlight. So that's going to be used throughout the entire run. So I'm going to get started by just soft resetting and setting the system time. This is pretty important for system setup. I do want to be playing at a particular date at a particular time. So we're going to play 2004, August 1st at 11:55 PM. Just go with normal region. And before we start time, I've got to start a new game and put in a password. You can use passwords gained at the end of Boktai 1 to slightly change your beginning loadout, like stats and inventory, and this is supposed to be a complex 24-character password, but due to someone ripping all of the possible passwords through a script, we discovered that we can just put in passwords that look something like this. And this will work just fine for what I need. I'm just going to go with a one-character name. Unfortunately, the Japanese version of this game does not allow you to use English names, so this is what you get. Apologies. And this is going to confirm start of the run. So, if we're ready, I am also going to be running splits on my end. I've disabled my split sounds, but I'm going to be running splits because every run can possibly be a PB, which will also be a world record. We'll see. It's a world record pace run until it's not. Either way. Gonna get started here in 3, 2, 1, go. So, Boktai 2, Soul Boy Django. This isn't Boktai 1, so if you're not familiar with the story of this series, you can do a little bit of reading up while the run is starting up if you so wish. If not, you are a vampire hunter. You're the Solar Boy, Django, as the name of the series implies. And you go around with a solar gun that can shoot solar energy to destroy the undead. And pretty much as soon as you start the game, we're going to lose that solar gun and be completely without any arms except bare hands, which is as bad as it sounds. Start off by just going through a tutorial where your mentor, like the Sunflower, the Sun Guardian Otenko here, teaches you like how to read hints and avoid enemies and whatnot, and it's pretty simple stuff to begin with. Shows you some fundamental movement that we're going to be going with as well. Okay, pretty favourable RNG for the first enemy there. Do we get the... Oh, God, we get the double. All right. World record pace. It'll be world record pace even if I didn't get that, but that's pretty nice, either way. So we're going to come into the screen here and immediately run into a vampire. And they're not really going to know what's going on. And then, you know, Django's going to get ready for combat, but Django's going to immediately get owned and gun gets stolen, and Otenko's like, well, that's fine because the gun can only be used by your bloodline, the lineage of solar children. Vampires can't use it. And then Django gets owned, and then Vampire runs off. So this forms the main subplot of the game, trying to get the solar gun back. The main plot of the game we'll find in a few minutes getting to the city of San Miguel. It's a typical, like, doomsday scenario. There's a family of immortals who are going to show up very briefly here and do some exposition about doomsday plans and whatnot. They're trying to awaken a primordial being that's sleeping underneath the city by breaking a bunch of seals. It's a very typical, like, anime gaming plot. Also, just to note, this is absolutely a chat interaction run. I have the chat up, so if you lot are saying nasty things about me, I'm going to see. But if you're also asking questions about the run, I'm also going to see that, and I would like to answer questions about the run. So feel free to chip in with anything. Just like I say, just don't say any nasty things about me, please. Alright, so we get started proper and clip up a few slopes. Movement in this game is pretty simple for the most part. You do have dynamic movement speed, but we don't get to change movement speed for a little while. So we come into the first trap here with a skeleton, and if you try to hit this thing with your bare hands, Otenko's just like, dude, that's not going to work. You need to at least go and find a weapon. So we're going to go over here instead and pick up the Gladius. And Otenko's like, I mean, it's still not great, but it's better than nothing. And now I'm going to try to get a pretty precise kill here on the skeleton. Yeah, so the way this game plays is like Metal Gear Solid meets Castlevania is the best way to describe it. And Metal Gear Solid does play a factor because this series was developed by Hideo Kojima. So stealth elements do play a part in this game, and as you see, I just walked right in front of that skeleton without being seen. Like, these enemies can have pretty buggy vision detection, and with a very precise kill there and a very precise position, you can just run in front of the skeleton as it's turning around and you don't get seen. So here with this zombie, I'm going to hit it 3 times to trigger a cutscene, and we get here the Sunflower Girl, Zazie, who is going to continue to berate Django for not using the correct tools. She's like, dude, you're a noob, you're not even using sunlight, what are you doing? Let me hook you up. So we get this glove, the Sol device, and this is going to allow Django to imbue his weapons with elemental enchantments, which we currently have 0 of. So Zazie is going to hook us up even more by giving Enchant Sol, so that we can actually use solar magic with our weapons. So now we can actually fully fight the undead. And you're going to see it's going to make a very dramatic difference to damage output. But first of all, I'm going to do some menuing. Change text speed to fast and unequip my armor. So I said that movement speed is variable in this game. There's 8 different movement speeds that you can have. And your movement speed is a product of your agility stat minus your weight stat. My agility stat is currently 12. Default is 10, but with the password that I started with, I start with 12 strength and agility. And then the starting armor has 5 weight. So by taking off the armor, I'm able to increase my movement speed. I'm now moving slightly faster than I was before. And once I get my next level up, I'm going to immediately assign stat points into agility to increase my speed even further. There's 4 stats that you can increase in this game. Vitality for maximum life, Spirit for maximum energy, Strength for attack power, and Agility for movement speed and physical defense. Agility only increases speed at certain breakpoints, so I'm only going to be raising Agility twice when I have enough points to reach those breakpoints, and when it doesn't have too much opportunity cost for not letting me spend points in strength, which is the primary stat of the run. If you have more strength, you hit harder and things die in fewer hits, so you go faster. But if you have higher agility and move faster, that also makes you go faster. So there's been some pretty interesting routing developments in this game lately. Like 2024 has been the year of Boktai 2. At the start of this year, the record for this game was a 159. You'll see that my estimate is 2 hours. And with a ton of rerouting and RNG manipulation, the record is now a 147, which is held by myself. I'm also turning the light on, because having light on after getting out this cutscene reduces the loading time for that screen very slightly, and also mitigates the chance of getting random rain, which causes additional lag. It's starting to rain anyway, so I'm turning the sun back on to get rid of the rain. Thanks, game. Okay, and now I need the light off, because on the next screen I'm going to kill an enemy here for experience, and the undead die in direct sunlight, and I do need this experience. And I need 2 more kills on the next screen to reach level 3, also for a split. Minus 0.2, I'm ahead, alright. So, ding, level 3, put my stat points 17 into agility, my remaining point into strength, and now I'm moving even faster. And yes, you can literally sunburn yourself playing this game, potentially. You can see I am using the real UV light, and I'm able to have the cartridge positioned close enough that there isn't really a risk of a lot of UV bleed, but you do still want to minimize exposure when you don't strictly need it. So I'm pretty much going to have the light on when I strictly need it, and otherwise I'm going to have it off. It also gives the LED bulb like time to cool down. If you leave it on for just like 2 hours, it runs really hot, and like there are actual, you know, health risks associated with that sort of thing. So yeah, I will be having the light turned off when I don't need it. I'm having it on now because I've routed in a certain amount of time to have the light on, so that the solar stations, which you can use to refuel your energy, gain enough accumulation so that I should have spare energy to withdraw throughout the run when I don't have access to direct sunlight. Turning it off so I can kill another enemy here. Switching weapon type, I just picked up the hammer as my second weapon type, which is mainly used for puzzle solving, like breaking blocks like that. I'm going to pick up a power nut here, which is going to stay in my inventory for a while before getting used. Break one more block here before switching back to sword. Sword is going to be the primary weapon type used for actual combat through the run. It has by far the highest attack speed out of the weapon types, whilst still being relatively strong compared to hammers and spears. And I'm also going to be able to craft a very strong sword later in the run, which is going to be grossly overpowered for the point that I obtain it, and then it will carry me through the rest of the game. So we just solve a little puzzle here by interacting with a couple of specific tombstones to open a path into the basement, and we're going to go through and get into the cathedral this way since the front door is locked. So I'm going to concentrate here while I get a few kills that I do need for experience. Some of them have some precise positioning required. These next two in particular. That should be fine. Yeah, so as long as this ghoul moves down, that's fine. And that ghoul only moves down if your movement is close to optimal on that screen. Like, there's really not much room for error there and still have the ghoul move in the right direction. I'm going to knock on the wall here to distract this zombie and make it move away from the door, because you can't pass it safely if it doesn't move. You can try and pass it on the corner, but it's essentially random whether you make it past it by doing that, because, like, movement speed in this game essentially dictates how many pixels you'll move per frame. And on the frame that you pass the corner joint, it's possible for Django to get moved either 1 or 2 pixels towards the enemy's position. And if you get moved 2 pixels on that frame towards the enemy, you just contact the enemy. And then you take damage, the door locks, and yeah. So there's a few moments where I'm going to try and slide past enemies on a corner, and a couple of moments where I can't really risk it, and I take the safer approach. So solving some more puzzles by lighting torches and using the hammer. I'm going to be coming into the cathedral itself pretty shortly. I'm going to just time a couple of hammer hits on these levers as this platform is rising. Switch to soul and sword and put my strength points in. And ready to go inside. So I dictate my starting pace by when I hit this next loading zone here. And this is a pretty good pace. Like, that was like 9:57 on the dot for going in, that is a pretty good run. I can only really be a couple of seconds ahead of where I am right now. Coming into the first trap here. So this cat Nero is trying to show us where to go into the basement, but the door locks and this floor mural disappears. And I'm going to have to kill 3 skeletons here. This is a very precise setup for this kill that I'm going to go for here, so I am going to full focus on this. I'm going to knock on a wall to distract 2 of the skeletons and get the other one while they're moving into position. But this is very precise. Very well executed. Good. It's extremely easy to mess up the cleave on the other 2 there, where if you don't time it within a short frame window, you just don't hit them in the back and they don't cooperate. Enemies in this game do take more damage when you hit them in the back, and the game doesn't really care about whether you're actually physically behind an enemy. It just cares about if you're facing the correct direction and if the enemy is facing the correct direction. But since the skeletons are turning around there, there's a very short window to get that. Knock on the wall to make the zombie walk onto the floor panel to open the door. Like this, switch to hammer. Gonna need to break 2 of these blocks. Is there a good chance of this series getting a remake or remaster? Probably not, because it's relatively obscure, and if it does, it will not be true to how you can actually play these games, you know, authentically with the solar panel, because I don't really know who would actually do that on modern hardware. If you can really do it on modern hardware, and if any modern game studios would actually, you know, care to do that. So, short answer, in my opinion, is no. So this is the main puzzle of the cathedral. In order to get that staircase to reappear, also charging some energy in a skylight, I need to collect 4 coloured crystals and place them in certain positions throughout the dungeon. Gonna kill this enemy for experience, switch to hammer, and coming up here is the first big RNG manipulation of the run. And this is... if the other trap was hard, this is almost impossible, comparatively speaking. I need to do a soft reset sequence here because I do need to set an RNG seed for this. I'm also going to change my system time when doing this. Gonna now play August 31st at some night date, like who cares, specific time doesn't really matter here, it just needs to be at night time. Now, pretty much as soon as I gain control and get into this trap, I need to play perfectly to get this RNG manip. This can go wrong on its own, and if I make a mistake, I am going to be soft resetting to try for this. I need this to work. Excellent. So, this guy dropped a sword for us. Enemies in this game can drop either common items or rare items, common drops being a 10.8% chance and rare items being a 1.2% chance. That is that enemy's rare item, which is a sword upgrade, the short sword. So, like, if you're just doing this without a manip, you have a, 1% chance to get that weapon off that specific enemy, and that's the only enemy that can drop that weapon before the first main boss of the game. So it's a significant upgrade, and it prevents me from needing to forge that weapon manually after the first dungeon, and if you attempt to forge that weapon, it's not guaranteed. It's actually really not a good chance to forge that weapon on first attempt, so even though I needed to take the time to do the soft reset sequence, implementing that RNG manip actively made the route faster, because you clear this dungeon faster from having a stronger weapon, and then you don't need to do the forge, it just saves overall time. So, like, the fact that it was an RNG manip that increased the consistency of the run and saved time, it's just a golden manip. Now, passing through this room, I'm going to need to check, 18 spots in my peripheral vision as I'm moving. Oh, there we go. Did you catch that glint? Did you see that as I was moving through the room? That can be in, all of the skylights here. There's, 18 different spots that can be in, so don't miss that. I need this by the time I get through the third visit of the room, otherwise I can't progress. So, gonna get outside here and get the third crystal, which is in the front courtyard. I'm also gonna have the light on here so that I can passively regenerate energy. I should more or less reach the full energy bar by the time I get back indoors. You didn't spot the glint. Don't. Come on. Unless you happen to be looking at that specific point of the screen at that specific moment. But, come on. I missed the glint on a lot of my runs, so, whatever. Alright. Switch to hammer and flame for going back indoors. And, yep, energy reaching full just before I get back in. Which is pretty good. Gonna turn the light off now. I don't need it for a while. I'm going to be coming now to a library where I'm just going to interact with a couple of books on specific bookcases to open a door. They're always in the same spot, but Django doesn't know that there's a puzzle in that room until I do that event where I went upstairs to that floor with the trapdoors and interacted with the hint panel in the corner. That's a prerequisite for being able to solve the puzzle in this room. I would love to not have to do that and just take the shorter route, but you can't solve the puzzle in this room before you do that. I'm going to play that super safe, because getting hit by the green spider's poison is the absolute worst case scenario here. The poison hits very hard, and it lingers and does tons of damage while it's on Django. I would lose basically half my life if I got hit by the poison there. Coming into another puzzle room here. I'm going to need to move a couple of these blocks so that I can light these lamps. And then move on to the next room. Oh, those corners were beyond optimal. That's I want to say both of those were frame perfect. I'm not entirely sure, but my god, that movement was good. Alright. Okay, that one wasn't quite optimal. But both of those chest grabs, oh my god. Amazing. Alright, now I've got to... This is pretty hard. I've got to time these spear thrusts. Okay. Oh, man. Oof, that was pretty difficult. That's really easy. Just make sure I don't fall off here, though. You can just fall off any sheer cliffs in this game, and it is an instant death, and within reason, you can't really afford to die in this run, because it costs currency that I kinda need later in the game. There are backups for if that happens, but it does cost time to perform those backups, so... the TLDR of running this game is just don't get hit and just don't die. So trigger this lamp to reveal the last crystal that I need. That's like the first actual movement mistake I've made. What a shame. And get as close as I can to the edge of the platform just so that I can leave sooner. There you go. Alright, this has been pretty decent so far, despite the fact that I'm just talking absolute nonsense throughout I say nonsense, I'm talking about the run, but I am really splitting my attention between playing and commentary right now, and this is honestly going pretty well so far, but I'm going to be coming to the first boss of the run very shortly, and it is not a super difficult fight, but it is an extremely precise fight, because I am kind of known in the games that I run for discovering just outlandish boss strats with extremely high execution requirements, and this game is no exception. Some of the boss fights in this game were pretty trivial compared to what they look like now, and there's a lot of near frame-perfect hits that are required in this upcoming boss fight now, with some near pixel-perfect positioning thrown in as well. There are some setups that can be used to buffer direction changes and make a lot of them a lot easier, but a couple of them you just like raw need to go for a near frame perfect, pixel perfect hit. So applying the last crystal, which is going to reveal the staircase to go downstairs. This game does have BN content, yes. It has Battle Network 4 crossover stuff, which sucks because BN 4 sucks. And it is post-game only, so we're not going to see any of it. Unfortunately. Well, I think fortunately, but that's a different story. Alright. So we're going to be coming into this boss in a bit. I'm going to turn off the light now. I do not need it for a while. And I'm going to start this fight without my enchantment active, because I do need to save energy and ration it pretty strictly in this fight. I'm going to refill on the solar station here. Come on, get... second movement mistake, dude. Terrible. Alright. Also equip my short sword and put in my strength points. So this is the first immortal of the game, White Daire. She takes the form of a moth, and she's attracted to the flame on the ground. So I'm going to be using flame thrust with the spear to light this torch, but getting all 4 of the candles with each thrust is extremely precise, so I'm going to be fully focusing on this. Damn it. Okay, I need to get rid of these. That's really bad, actually. I need to use my health items to not die now. This is now a terrible fight. I made the one mistake that I couldn't really afford to make. So I'm just gonna play safe here. So this is the first big time loss of the run, unfortunately. Come on, dude. I really need to take care to not die here now. God damn it. Alright. Okay, here we go again. And now I get the positioning perfect, of course I do. Now I need to use Menji. I'm going to install some health as well. Alright, so now I can probably not worry about whether I'm going to PB anymore. That's a bit of pressure off. That's a really, really bad mistake, but that just does show the unfortunate reality of how hard the boss fights in this run are now. Gonna split. I mean, I'm still going to time against my splits, because I just want to see where this ends up, but probably not going to PB now. So the idea behind that fight is that if you keep lighting the torches as soon as they're available after each cycle, she just doesn't really get an opportunity to move. She tries to fly around the room and drop pollen on you and spawn a lot of ads. But if you keep lighting the torch at the first opportunity, she just keeps landing and you just keep her in that cycle for the entire fight. It's very fast and very difficult. Yeah, so sun stuff is used with the UV flashlight, which I have here, and I am actually going to turn on now because I'm going to need it once I get outdoors, and I don't really have a better opportunity than now to activate it. I'm not going to have downtime beyond this point, so just activate it now. And since the immortals are immortal, you can't kill them by, you know, just raw fighting them. So every time you beat a boss in this game, you need to seal it in a coffin and drag it all the way back to town so that Django can purify it manually. Very nice little detail. So I can't get out of the dungeon yet because the front door is locked, so I need to drag the coffin up here so that I can do a puzzle. It's not for sure yet that I do need to do recovery for losing money. I won't know that for a bit. We'll see. Like, it's not necessarily a lost cause for a bit. Okay, so now it connects it. I am going to have the sun disabled for actually going outdoors on the next screen because there's outdoor enemies, and every time they die to sunlight on the environment, you lose 1 frame. So I'd rather not just lose a frame on this screen. So I'll just have the sun disabled for the screen. And once I get off this screen, now I can have the sun re-enabled. There are enemies on the future screens, but there's more time lost by having more sprites on screen due to lag than there is for losing a frame for actually having enemies die to the sun on these screens, so it's fine. Just about back to town, please. Django, get around the corner. What are you doing, dude? Okay, here we go. So once you get back to town, Otenko summons the pile driver here. This is your main weapon for dealing with the immortals of the game. It's gonna summon a bunch of generators at these like diagonal points. And you trigger them, and they focus sunlight into the coffin, and you burn the immortal up. Switch to sun here. Make sure to not activate that 4th generator, because if you do, it triggers a text cutscene from Otenko, which I don't want. I can just activate it during the purification. And now, the mechanics in this game are really not tuned for having maximum sunlight. Like, if you try to play this game organically with real sunlight, you will really struggle to get, like, half of the sun gauge filled, or beyond half. Having a direct source of UV like this makes filling the sun gauge trivial, and having the sun gauge filled really speeds up purifications like those and just general events that use sunlight. Like I say, nothing in this game is really tuned for having max sunlight, so those purifications go by really fast with 10 sun. As does your passive regeneration while outdoors, and when you're manually charging sunlight by taioing, it's just really fast with 10 sun. And playing organically, the fact that you need to be like outdoors in sunlight, and you know, oh, the stronger the sunlight is, the more power you'll get. Like, there is actually a safety mechanic in these games to prevent kids from being out all day and just getting sunstroke. So if you played this game with just the sun gauge maxed, after about an hour of constant exposure, you will trigger a mechanic called overheat, where the game just doesn't let you use the solar gauge until you get into shade and let it cool down. And I'm pretty sure that is an intentional mechanic to make sure that, like, kids didn't stay out all day and get heat stroke. Which is pretty cool. Fortunately, there is no chance of actually running into that problem in a speedrun. Because, like I say, it takes over an hour of constant exposure at 10 sunlight to reach that point. And the counter is reset every time you, like, reboot the game. And we do multiple save and reset sequences in this run. So there's never a risk of actually triggering overheat. Okay, I get to check my health here. Okay, so with 64 health, I am going to need to take a health refill before I reach a specific point in the next dungeon, but I can use that opportunity more productively than normal to refill my life and to check for a random drop at the same time. I'm going to immediately come into a trap in this dungeon, which is already extremely dangerous. Like, second dungeon of the run, and we're already getting to the point where, like, some enemies will just kill me in 2 hits. I'm gonna run into a bunch of vampire bats here, and these will kill me in 2 hits. No questions asked here. So I am gonna definitely focus here to try and make sure I don't take any accidental hits. Pretty unfriendly, but that's fine. Now, on this next set of enemies, I'm going to Taio without the sun active. And we get these little bugs coming up. So, when you try and channel sunlight in this game, when there's no sun out, and you are playing at nighttime, on the date of a real-life full moon, as in based on a real lunar calendar, you will summon moonbugs instead, which you can use to replenish your health. And you can use these infinitely, as long as you are playing at nighttime on the date of a real full moon, which is why I use specific calendar dates for this game. I start on August 1st, 2004. That's the first full moon date. And then August 31st is the next full moon date. So every time I do a clock reset, I am progressively going forward to the next full moon date of that year. And so, as long as you are outdoors, you do have access to pretty much unlimited health refills in this game, and I do need them right here for... I needed health refill for a damage boost on the first visit through this room, and probably going to need a damage boost on the way back here. And you get hit twice for 35 damage, so if you're under 70 health coming to that point, you just can't survive taking 2 damage boosts there. Going to refill my health again, and refill my energy before going indoors. Get rid of this, and gonna push. So since I didn't get a random drop from the yellow slimes at the point that I did the health refill, I'm gonna need to grab an item in the corner here. There's a chest inside this ice block at the top of the room that contains a power nut that I will need. If I got a random power nut, I wouldn't need that, but yeah, it's just not really optional. Gonna turn the sun off now, I don't need it, and I'm gonna do 3 traps in a row here. First, the sword plus, which I'm gonna focus on because it's quite precise. I'm not going to go for an 11th hit. I didn't trust my timing there. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fine. Going to have the enchant off here for the yellow slimes because they are resistant to all elements. So you do want to hit these with no element. Oh, I thought that was going to hit me. Whatever. And now the clay golems. This is the absolute worst room in the game. This is supposed to be consistent, but it just isn't. I'm just going to pray that they behave here. Okay, that'll do. And that's not really preferable, so I'm just gonna... Alright, whatever. Not the fastest, but at least I got all the kills. So the way that they roll around and bounce off each other is just not consistent, even though it should be. And the worst case scenario there is that they split apart and misbehave so badly that they end up killing each other by running into each other. And that means you don't get the experience for the kills. You don't get EXP from enemies that die to environmental damage, and I really need the EXP for the route that I'm using. And this is Sabata, by the way. This is Django's edgy brother. Basically, this guy's Sasuke. You can just call this guy Sasuke if you want. Gonna turn the light back on as Sasuke gives Enchant Cloud. And gonna come back outdoors because you can see my energy is very low here, so this is a good opportunity to refill, and I'm gonna need to be at full before I go into the next room anyway. I'm gonna kill 1 more vampire bat here for a bit more experience and charge to full before I go indoors here. Yes, I pump agility breakpoints when it is correct to do so, and strength otherwise, like right here. And use power nut here. Please. And now a little bit of rapid fire menuing with my enchants and weapons selected. For a bit of puzzle solving, need a combination of spear, sword, cloud, and frost usage. Like, oh my word. Using the power nut here gives, as you see, it speeds up the coffin drag. It also gives you 30 seconds of increased block push speed, which is very nice for those puzzles. Switch to Sol before I go outdoors here, and I'm going to try one more time to kill some yellow slimes and wait for a possible drop from them. So it would be optimal to get a power nut from them while you are doing the energy charge, but no such luck. That's the common drop from those enemies, so that's 10.8% from each of those slimes. So each slime splits into 2, so it's roughly a 22% chance to get a power nut from each of them. Like, it's just over 20%. And now we get a much more involved puzzle. So yeah, let's... If you could really see the glint of the chest. I wonder if you can solve this puzzle organically. Push all of the blocks onto their right coloured floor panel. Yeah, Boktai 2 has a lot of puzzle solving in the route. If you, like, enjoy puzzle solving in RPGs, then this is the game for you. If you don't enjoy puzzle solving, then that is unfortunate. Okay, I kind of wanted that, but I can get that EXP later, so I'll just do that. I do need this EXP, though. And I need to hit this next mummy with flame to make it run into the torch in the corner of the room, which opens the door to the south. And going to hopefully regenerate all my energy by the time I get indoors here. Going to damage boost up this slope, it's slightly faster. I'm going to play super safe and just take a hybrid refill here before I go indoors. So disable the sunlight momentarily so that I can get also... That's the replacement EXP there, and I'm going to just refill here on the solar station. Lost my train of thought, sorry. Here's the X+, next mini-boss. This is also very precise. So, I'm going to focus here a little bit on my attack positioning here. Okay. I didn't really trust that, so I was just going to play safe. Okay, so my money is totally fine. I just checked my balance. I have over 3,000 funds. So the deal with currency in this game is you start with a fixed 500, and every day that passes, you gain interest on your balance. It's a random amount that can be anywhere between 1 to 15% each day, and the first interest advancement of the save file is always a fixed amount. It's a really low amount, which you don't want, which is why the initial system time is 11:55 PM, so that the first day advancement will always occur organically, because the real money that you get is when you are doing the clock resets and advancing by a month at a time. When you do that, the game gives you compound interest for up to 10 days at a time, and I got a very favourable amount to have over 3,000 here. Basically, I'm set for the entire run. Like, I don't need to worry about money at all. Also, here's a nice little RNG segment. I'm going to be going through a grid of desert screens here, where I need to find 3 stone tablets to reveal the dungeon in the centre of this place. They're all in fixed spots on the screens, but it's just 3 chests on 8 different screens, so I'm just taking the systematically fastest route across all of these screens and checking the individual spots. If you are fluent in Japanese, you can technically check the hints in the center if you've already gotten the first 2 in the optimal location to see where the third one is. It does give you hints, like it basically tells you which screen the ones are on. This is the second worst RNG, but I find it's very uncommon to actually get good RNG here, so it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm also going to need to find an opportunity at some point to check the card that I got after the axe fight. Like, I got a blue card out of the chest. You get a random tarot card from a lot of mini-boss kills in this game, and I specifically want to see if I have a copy of the tower. So I need to, like, read the kanji and see which card I actually have. If I have the tower, then I'm going to keep that in my inventory for the entire game and use it in the final dungeon. If I don't have the tower, then I'm going to be salty and just sell it later for money that I don't need at this point. So just activate 4 lamps in a specific order to reveal the staircase. Switch to cloud before I leave the room because I need this clay golem's EXP. And then I need these mummies EXP, which I'm just going to turn around, and 1, 2, 3. Switch to spear and cloud before leaving the room, and I need to do 4 puzzles here to open the boss room. So I'm gonna... Oh, no, I can't. Alright. I needed to turn off my enchant there because I cannot waste energy here. You'll see after I do these 2 frost thrusts, I am completely out of energy. The energy that you have for this section is very strictly rooted and assumes that you make no mistakes. There is a skylight in this room, but it's slow to do that, so I just don't mess up the puzzles, ideally. Going to refill on this solar station here, do a speed thrust and a cloud. Then I'm going to use the speed nut that's now in my inventory that I picked up earlier. This gives Django 30 seconds of assuming that he's moving at the highest speed category of the game. I'm currently moving at the 3rd highest speed, so now I'm moving at the 1st highest speed for 30 seconds. Now, this is a little fun puzzle. Change all the floor panels to the right color, and this is extremely easy to mess up by just making a small movement mistake, so it's important to understand the actual logic of how that puzzle works for if you do make a mistake. Like, I've messed that up so many times and been like, oh, what do I actually need to do to solve it now? Let me fix that quick. Oh, okay, I almost didn't react in time because the wind in this room pushes you in a random direction, and that was very good. You just hit the switch, the lever, and then it changes the direction of the wind, and then you walk onto the floor panel, easy peasy. So now coming into the second boss of the run, we're going to run into the vampire from the start of the game, and Sabata, or Sasuke, is going to help, where I'm going to need to protect Sasuke while he generates black holes in the center of the room to pull the vampire inside, where I'll be able to hit him while he's weakened by being inside the black hole. Otherwise, he's basically invulnerable and avoids your attempts to attack him. I am going to be doing some weak, wimpy hits to him throughout the fight. It is necessary to keep his health at certain values, so I can hopefully avoid a 3rd cycle in this fight. If I get a 3rd cycle in this fight, it loses over a minute, no questions asked. But if executed correctly, getting a 2 cycle should be consistent. Should, in theory, you know. That's fine. Gonna manipulate his position to go into the black hole now. I do need to wait and not do a 6th hit while he's vulnerable there, otherwise it immediately causes a bad cycle, which is just, that's like the minute time loss that I'm talking about. You absolutely don't want that. Yo, you're saying evil Django there. Just all I'm gonna say is hold that thought for 5 minutes. Hold that thought. Okay, so now we get to the best part of the game, the most transcendental part of the game. Because they get a look at this guy's face, and then Django gets glumped. Don't you love it? Alright. The only RPG where you canonically get glumped by your own father. Yeah, exactly. See, yeah, Quebec gets it. Alright. Because that guy's hat gets blown off, and they get a good look at his face and realize, oh no, that's our father, Red Ringo, the original, like, solar child who went missing after the, like, well, before the events of the first game. And, yeah, turns out he turned into a vampire. And now Django's been bitten, so now Sasuke needs to drag the coffin back to town. Like, do Django's job. So I'm going to drag the coffin all the way back to town, and then we need to purify Django. Fun sequence. So how are you guys enjoying the run? Aside from the fact that I actually died in the first boss fight, which I haven't done for months, this has actually been a pretty good run so far. Gonna take a bit of an unintuitive route back through the desert here, because the room transitions in this, like, grid don't really behave like they do the rest of the game. TLDR, by taking a specific route through these screens, I can, like, warp Sasuke through parts of the grid. And that is not the tower, so I'll just sell that later. Getting the tower is a 3.91% chance from any chest, so it's... I only get 1 card through the run, and, yeah, it's less than a 4% chance to actually get a copy of the tower. I've gotten it twice in runs so far. And the first time I got it, I died before I got to the end of the game and could actually capitalize on it, so I was extremely mortified by that. I was like, I can't believe this is the one run where I could do this and I didn't even get to the last dungeon. Like, I was distraught. Not so good. Alright, about to get back to town. This bat should... I mean, it's chasing, but it's not close enough to actually catch me, because these bats do spawn on, like, random positions on the screen, and they can be close enough to immediately pursue you as soon as they're active, and getting chased by the bats when you're dragging the coffin is really bad. They force you to drop the coffin when they hit you, and Sasuke only has the dark gun, the Gundel Hell, And surprisingly enough, a gun that can only fire in 8 directions is really bad for hitting flying targets that move around erratically. Like, it's really bad for dealing with the bats, so you really don't want to get hit there. Yes, Django's life bar is the one in the top right, and now, Sabata, or Sasuke, since he's the Dark Child, he doesn't deal with sunlight very well, so now this purification is a race to purify Django before Sabata dies. Thankfully, it's never a risk of actually dying in this purification. Like, Django just loses health much faster than Sabata does. So, about the concept of having an evil Django. We stop the vampire transformation process halfway through, but not able to stop it completely. So for the next segment of the game, we play as Django's vampire form, also known as Black Django. So Django's going to lose access to all of his solar powers, and it gets replaced with a few vampire powers. I'm going to need to do some menuing to put on my new powers here and assign my stat points. Very notably for this next section of the game, Django is now vulnerable to sunlight, and you still do need sunlight for some sections, so every time you need to expose him to sunlight or recharge, you take damage from it. So it's even more convenient that we have access to the moon bugs to restore health. Oh, I forgot to split. Whatever, I don't care. At this point, it doesn't even fucking matter. Whatever. Oh, and I apologize. I forgot. Sorry, I forgot it's PG. That's the one that I'm allowed. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. Alright, so, menuing. Please. Unequip cloud, equip that over that, and that over that, and put my agility to 25. And now I'm moving at the second highest movement speed. This is as high as agility is going to go in the game. Also going to refill my bars here. So I summon moonbugs before each energy charge so that I can offset the life loss, and I'm going to replace my Coffin here. Going to replace the standard Coffin with the Coffin monster Elephant, which isn't going to be seen for a while, but is vitally important for the pace of the run. Also, I need to do an EXP grind here. It wouldn't be an RPG without an EXP grind, and this is just a pure EXP grind. You can count along with me for the enemies if you want. So, 2... in fact, you can guess in the chat if you want how many enemies I'm going to kill here. 4... 6... Well, Grey's wrong already. 8... Alright, Grey, you can shut up now. 10... 12. This is completely necessary, by the way. 14. 16. 18. 20. 22. 24. 26. 28. 30. Refill. And so, if you guess 32, ding ding, you are winner. Congratulations. The EXP route that I have currently requires me to get 32 enemies there in order to get levels at a required time. Hey, I'm only like a minute and 23 behind my PB. Yay. Okay, so Dark City, next dungeon. Gonna immediately put my stats into strength. Gonna pick up a sunscreen on this next screen. That sounds pretty handy, except I'm not gonna use it for a while. I'm also gonna kill a dog here, I'm sorry. Oh, oh, that's... Okay, I'm gonna play safe here. I'm just not even gonna take a risk. Whatever. I don't normally miss that, so I don't want to have any nasty accidents. Because, as you see, you get pretty hard at this point. You really take hefty damage from a lot of the enemies at this point, because I'm running with no armor so that I can move faster, and almost no defense investment. Because I'm not upgrading the life stat at any point, and agility only goes high enough for movement speed, and really it increases your defense power, but the primary increase to defense power in this game is actually wearing armor. So yeah, you do get hit very hard without any armor in this game. Turning off the light because I'm not going to need it for quite a while now. I'm going to move on now. I need that as well. Menuing's hard because the route in this game is still kind of in flux, because like there's a lot of routing decisions you can make in this game, and part of the reason that I thought there was a chance that I could PB on this run is because, like, as late as yesterday, I got a PB by using a new route, which I executed very badly. So, like, yeah, the routing for this game is, like, really not even close to done. Case in point, like, these packs of mummies in these rooms, these are more than worth the time to kill, but I'm not currently killing them in the route because they are extraordinarily dangerous, and I don't want to take the massive risk that the, like, 15 seconds that you save by perfectly killing them all, like, gives you. They are, like, I can't stress how dangerous they are. Switch to bat. So yeah, as Black Django, I'm using the bat transform and the mouse transform for different puzzles. You also have a wolf transform, but it is completely useless. It's supposed to be used for combat to damage enemies and drain life from them, but it only works when you hit enemies directly from behind, and if you like use it incorrectly, you just dash into them and take damage, so like, it's really useless. Just pretend it doesn't exist. The only mummies that I'm going to... No, I don't even kill the mummies in PB attempts. I don't do them currently in world record attempts. I think they are not worth the risk for the 15 seconds that they can potentially save. The only ones that I kill are these ones here because they are very consistent. But as you can see, it's still not fast to kill them, which is why I believe they don't really save any more than about 15 seconds. The routes that I was killing infinitely before coming into the dungeon were worth 40 EXP each, and those mummies are worth 100 EXP each. So on the screens where you can kill like 3 mummies at a time, they are extremely dense EXP, which they are more than worth the time of killing them, but like I say, they are very, very dangerous. They kill you really quickly, and crowd controlling them effectively is not simple. Gonna get a key that's past... Oh, okay. I was meant to transform before entering that screen, but as long as you don't move from the entry point, you don't trigger a text cutscene that it's like the main villain is telling you to transform into a bat, but as long as you don't move from the start, then... Oh, that was perfect as well. So, an enemy hit me as I was untransforming and completely cancelled the animation. That's really favourable. Okay, so I was kind of lying when I said that was the only set of mummies I was going to kill. There is a set of 3 I'm going to kill in this next room, and this is by far the most creative strat in this run, but it's also very dangerous. I'm going to knock on walls at specific points to funnel these guys under the skylight, then I'm going to turn the light on at a specific brightness to damage them. To soften them. Because if you give them a hit of, like, full 10 damage from the sun, they just die on the spot and you don't get the EXP. If you hit them with up to 9 sun, you can hit them for up to 270 damage to soften them and make the kill faster. Obviously, judging the correct distance to hold the cartridge away from the light so that you get exactly 9 and not 10 is very easy to get wrong. And like I say, if you do get 10 damage on that tick, you just don't get the EXP at all. So yeah, that can go really, really wrong. And just killing them in itself can also go really, really wrong. And now I'm coming into another really dangerous fight, which I'm going to 100% be fully focusing on. This is very quick if done correctly, but the execution factor for this fight is extremely high. Don't you dare. I absolutely despise that fight. You have no idea how much I hate that fight. Cheyenne will absolutely destroy you, given half the chance. Always starts by trying to throw axes at you, and then he'll run off to a corner to pull axes back out. If he gets his weapons back out, that is not good news. You die in 2 hits in this fight, and he attacks very fast, and you do not really have a lot of iframes between attacks in this game. So if you get hit by his whirlwind attack, you just get killed on the spot, because you get hit twice before you can react. And now I'm going to return to town, and I'm going to do the main RNG manip of the run. So this is, by far, the most critical point of the run. This is the easiest thing to get wrong, and this costs a minute every time I make a mistake here. So I'm going to forge a new weapon. I'm going to forge the weapon that's going to carry me for the rest of the run, the Katana. This involves doing 2 forges, the first of which is completely consistent, but the second of which requires an RNG manip so that I can target an 8-frame window from system on, which will let me hit a 1% chance to get the forge that I'm looking for, and then I need to play the forge a specific way in order to get the right weapon. So I have an external timer, which I'm going to be using, so that I can time when to reset the console, and then hit an 8-frame window once I get back in game, and this is by far the most critical point of the run. This kills a lot of runs, that I just missed the 8-frame window here. This first forge is entirely consistent though, so you can see here, the higher the sun gauge is, the faster this cursor moves, and in theory lets you get more hits, but the faster the cursor is, the harder it is to get accurate hits. And I don't really need to worry about accuracy in this first forge. I don't really need to worry about accuracy in the second forge either, as long as I get enough great hits. But yeah, once I'm done with this forge, I am 100% in full focus mode. This is by far the most important part of the route. Okay, got Ian's timer up. My heart rate is increasing. The ticking of the timer is probably going to be audible on stream here, so you know it's real. That felt slightly late, but we'll see what happens. Need to use a specific date and time here. This does affect how the game loads and lags, which adjusts the frame offset. I feel like that could be a couple of frames early, but we'll see. So by hitting 15 greats, I extended the frame window from 8 to 12, but that affects the end of the frame window, and if anything, I went early, so it's not going to help. If the screen flashes here and I get a black sword, that is a successful manip. If I get a white sword, that is a failure, and I need to go again. Yes! Oh my god! Let's go. Oh, that is a lot of pressure off. Okay. Now we get to play the game, as they said in that one show. So I can't put this weapon on yet. So the thing about weapons in Boktai is they are level locked. Yes, that's a major reset point on runs. Yeah, if you don't get that first try, that's an instant reset on PB attempts. So yeah, weapons in this game are level locked. The massive EXP grind that I did earlier is for the sake of being level 17 before this upcoming boss fight. The Katana requires level 17 to equip, and having this weapon available for the next boss fight, Red Daire, saves about a minute over doing the fight without the Katana. Someone was mentioning in chat before about, like, I wonder how this boss fight's going to go, because it's, like, it's really something. And yeah, I agree, this fight really is something, and it is potentially extremely slow. One of the main sources of time save over the old world record route was that the old world record did not manipulate for this weapon. And so the time that it takes to do the soft reset sequence and manipulate this weapon, you almost get the time back just from the time you save in this fight by having this weapon. It really can't be overstated. Come on. So once I get into the fight, there's a bunch of tentacles and a bulb that are going to spawn in random spots. I'm going to wait to see where stuff is spawning and use that opportunity to pause the game and do some menuing I need to do. I need to equip the katana and put my strength points in. So by using the fade in of the pause to see where stuff is spawning, I'll get to react to where I need to go as soon as I get out of the pause. Like, I don't basically need to react to where I need to go, because the timing for this first phase, to end the first phase before she starts attacking, is very tight. And it is RNG dependent. Like, if she appears in the corner of the room, I'm basically going to take damage here. Please. And I'm still going to... Okay. Cool. Phase 1 done. She doesn't get to attack. Now I'm going to use Bat to see which is the correct bulb in these phases. Because using echolocation, Django can see which of these bulbs she's inside. Oh my god. Okay. I would rather not have had to go all the way out there, but that's fine. Phase 2 over. Now for the third phase, I'm going to do an unenchanted hit plus an enchanted hit per cycle. Yeah, so that root can spawn randomly and can hit you depending on where it decides to spawn. It wouldn't kill me from full, but it would do a lot of damage. And that's fight over, by the way. This fight is much, much faster with the katana than it is without. Like, you do so much additional damage that it's absurd. Like, it's sickening how much extra damage you do in this fight. Gonna immediately put my strength points in. So this is an odd menu to do, because in a minute I'm gonna need to open the menu to use a warp leaf to get out, but it is faster for me to do these points now because a recent discovery by a Japanese runner known as Beige found that the Coffin drag speed in this game is variable, and it is a product of your strength stat plus your agility stat. And if you get to 75 between those two stats, you get increased movement speed with the Coffin here. And by doing that stat increase there, that puts me up to 75 between the two stats. And even though it takes a few seconds to do the menu, it overall saves about 2 seconds to do that menu earlier, rather than consolidate those points into a later menu. So this is the only time in the run where you see the manual Coffin drag speed. Like, I don't have the option of using a power nut here if you are at all confused, because Black Django cannot eat the solar fruits. If Black Django eats like any of the fruits that Red Django would normally enjoy, he just gets a stomachache. And it heals for basically nothing, and then it causes blurred vision for quite a while. So I'm going to warp out here. I'm going to just leave the Coffin behind, like, who cares? And I'm going to soft reset the game. So this is an opportune moment for the question in the chat. What's the deal with the gun coffin monster? So the elephant coffin is the only coffin in the game that can move under its own power. And the main utility of that is that if you like leave it behind when the way open in a dungeon is open, if I set the clock forward now, the coffin will walk back to town on its own. Like, that sounds like a joke, but legitimately, like, I'm doing this so that I can just walk into the purification screen and the coffin will be there. And yes, that saves a ton of time. Like, I don't have to do any more coffin backtracks for the entire game, because the coffin just walks itself back. It takes a long time to do coffin backtracks, yes. Like, a very long time. So I do need sunlight to trigger the purification, so I just have it on minimum so that Django doesn't take very much damage. And now I can have it back to max sunlight. Oh, no, it takes, like, any forward date change. So, like, I can, if I wanted to, I could set the clock forward by, like, a day, and it would be back on its own, but as I mentioned earlier in the run, I exclusively want to play on dates of real-life lunar full moons so that I can exploit health refills through the games. And now Django uses, like, anime powers of whatever, I don't know, to break the vampire curse and get back to his normal form. So now he can freely transform between Red Django and Black Django form. So I'm going to menu and put my soul back on. Refill my energy now. Okay, where are you going? Very good. Very good purification. Didn't fail to get her back in the coffin quickly at any point. That purification is very dangerous if you are both sloppy and careless, because if she ends up having time out of the coffin, you can put yourself in really bad positions for getting hit by the thorns that spawn from the center, and they kill Django in 3 hits from full. And if you are in the dead center of the screen, like at the spawn point when they fire, you can get hit by multiple of them on the same frame. So you can potentially die from full in 1 hit. That's a choice to save the game, so I say no, go away, don't want to, waste time. And we get some cutscenes, stuff happens, and once I get control of Django, I'm going to go to the weapon shop, which is now open after beating Cheyenne. I'm going to talk to Cheyenne. And Cheyenne is going to give Django the dash magic, which lets you move faster based on the sun gauge level. And if you remember what I said earlier in the run, none of the mechanics in this game are tuned for the player having access to maximum sunlight. Like, the game designers expected, like, maybe they'll have access to, like, half sun, so, like, that seems reasonable. But we need to have levels for, like, different amounts. But it's like, most players are not really going to have, like, a ton of sun. So whatever. Doesn't really matter. But if you do have access to max sun, dash makes you move obscenely fast. So the overall speed of the game is about to massively go up. From this point on, the agility stat is not very meaningful for speed because dash makes you move at a set speed every time you use it. I can use it every 16 frames, so I'm going to be basically tapping L like 5 times a second from this point onwards. For the rest of the run, I'm going to be moving like this. The only drawback to dash is that it causes you to take automatic critical hits if you get hit. Like, if you get hit during the dash animation, you take increased damage from all sources. So it even more so ups the ante on the whole factor of just don't get hit in this game. Gonna move over here and destroy this dark root. This is a prerequisite to get the enemy spawns on this screen to change. And I do need the enemy spawns to be different here. I'm gonna have no sun here so that I can kill a mummy that is now going to freely spawn on the screen. And again, I can't have the sun active while outdoors or the enemies will instantly die to exposure. Destroy this. And so as you see now, the run also becomes more dynamic in terms of how the solar sensor itself is handled. There's a lot of rapidly switching between using no sunlight and max sunlight, and it's why I really prefer to do this run on a Nintendo DS. Like, running on a DS means that the game does operate at a very slightly lower frame rate. I lose like 8 seconds across the run from the DS operating at like 59.6555 FPS in GBA mode, but the portability factor of, I need to, put the sol on here, then warp out. The portability factor of being able to freely control the DS's position and modify the sun exposure on a dime is completely invaluable for doing this run. Like, in a vacuum, playing on Game Boy Player is slightly faster, but being able to have full control over the sun level is a very helpful utility for this run. Going back to Dark City now so that I can do a backtrack. Also need to remember this. So this is part of the influx routing stuff that I talked about earlier. I need to remember as I'm going through these rooms to stop to kill one of these mummies. Don't. All right. Yeah, pretty dangerous. So on the second screen, once I get indoors here, I need to kill a mummy as I'm driving by. How would you play this on the 3DS when it doesn't have a GBA slot? The sheer cliffs in this room do kill you immediately if you accidentally dash off them, so I'm pretty careful in those spots on these screens. Gonna need to put on a spread of elemental enchants here. Nice little bit of menuing. Switch to Earth to delete this block, then switch to Cloud for the rest of the puzzle. Easy game. Use my one... Oh, yeah, because I died in Daire. That's right. I'm going to put that in the spot that I actually expect to have it in. So I'm going to need to go outside momentarily to recharge a bit of energy. That's fine. It's whatever. Minor mistake. Whatever. Yeah, so I didn't have a solar nut that I expected to have there because I forgot that I used it during a previous boss fight because I'm really bad. Because I made a mistake at the start of the game. Alright, whatever. So I'm taking a weird path here to respawn the enemies on these screens because I want to kill 3 more of these mummies on the next screen for EXP. Again, these are 100 EXP each, which is still a pretty competitive amount of EXP per kill at this point. So what I'm actually doing here is I want to get into the next dungeon, Aqueduct, but it's guarded by a door, which is sealed by 3 cards in these previous dungeons. So this is the second card I just picked up. And I'm going to go back to the second dungeon, Remains, now to pick up the last card that I need. So I need to replace that with that, and then use a warp leaf to leave. Trigger that to attack. Dash through a few more screens. Please, laggy room. Yeah, the mummies are cute, but they are not friendly. They're also completely blind. Like, if it wasn't clear from how the previous screens had operated, the mummies in this game do not have sight, and they detect... Oh my god, what am I doing? I'm actually going to need to heal before going to the next dungeon. Yeah, they detect Django through sound. So when I did the skylight kill in the previous dungeon, that is done by knocking on the walls in specific places so that they're baited into specific positions. So I'm going to turn the light off and do a life refill before I come onto the next screen because I do need to kill a mummy twice here. They infinitely respawn on this screen after killing the dark root earlier when I came here. So I get that level up in time to enter the Aqueduct. So the Aqueduct is an extremely short dungeon. Like, the main gameplay bulk of this scenario of the game is going to the previous dungeons and collecting the tarot cards, but the dungeon itself is extremely short. It's basically 3 traps back to back and then a boss fight. It's just a couple of connected rooms. Okay, first one, super easy. I do need to equip Flame now over Soul. You were supposed to get hit by that. Okay, that's fine. That actually went better than I expected. Alright. Now for this third trap, I'm actually going to switch to Black Django and use Dark. This seems pretty unintuitive, but like enemies in this game only have like a single elemental weakness, and if an enemy doesn't have a specific weakness, then it takes a flat plus 25% damage from all elemental sources. And skeletons in this game, despite being undead, they aren't actually considered dark element, so they don't take increased damage. Like, they don't take the massively increased damage from Sol, and they actually take increased damage from Dark, because they just don't have an elemental affinity. And Dark is really useful for crowd controlling enemies, where I'm going to be able to knock these all towards the door like this, and super easy encounter. Put in my new strength points, because I just hit that ding from getting those kills. And now we've got the next immortal fight, Blue Dvalin. So this is a really RNG heavy fight. The start of the fight is always going to be 2 tentacles spawning in random spots. And if they spawn together, you can cleave them and double your damage output. But that is obviously very random, so this is a fight where I'm just going to have to, like, see what I get and react to events as they happen. And just like most everything else by this point, this is a fight where, like, if I get hit twice, I will die. Some sources of damage will kill me in 1 hit from full. Like, some things I can survive a hit from, and other things I can't survive a hit from. Thankfully, there is a skylight in this fight, so I can freely refill energy and life as I see fit. But, as has been the case, the objective is just don't get hit. I'm going to menu to select flame as the fight is starting so that I can react to where the tentacles are appearing. They'll be like bubbling in the water before they come up. And I do need to do damage very fast when the fight starts. So that's not good. Okay, at least I got this. Oh my god, yes! That is close to what the task gets. That was obscenely good. That's a gold split. I just got a gold split. Alright, so I'm putting on Earth and now I'm warping out. See you later, Coffin. And now I'm going to go back to town and I'm going to visit the clock tower to reset the time. Because this is a lot faster than doing a game reset sequence. And the menu for this time is super easy also, thankfully. Just bam bam, just right up, and you set it forward a month, and it automatically goes to September 30th, which is the next full moon date. I could still PB here, technically, after that. Okay. And now I'm going to go shopping. So there is only one time I actually go to the item shop, and I'm going to buy my inventory for the entire rest of the run. I'm going to sell these. I'm also going to put that in the slot that I expect to see it in. Buy 2 speed nuts, 2 power nuts, 1 warp leaf, 8 solar nuts, 1 earthly nut, and 1 tomato juice, and that is my inventory for the rest of the run. I'm now on a soft time limit to reach the end of the game as fast as possible, because I need most of this inventory for the final dungeon so that I can refill energy in fights. And items in this game, specifically the fruits, are perishable items. If left in the sun for too long, they will spoil and turn into the, like, little brown thing that you saw me sell just there. They are basically unusable. And I'm on a pretty strict time limit now. Like, even, like, at, you know, quote-unquote world record tier play, you need to play pretty quickly to let your items survive to the point that you need them for the world record route. Decent purification. I got pretty bad RNG on the second hit, but then very good third hit. So going to be coming into Spiral Tower here, which is, in my opinion, by far the most engaging part of the run. There's a lot of random, well, not random, there's a lot of rapid switching between Django and Sabata. And there's a lot of management of my soul level. So this is... I think this is a pretty cool part of the run, personally. So, first of all, to open the dungeon, need to open Sabata's half first by charging darkness, which requires no sunlight to be out. Now I need to open Django's half by having the sun out. So I mentioned earlier how enemies on the corners of tiles, you can essentially just randomly hit them. That applies for this black slime here. There's nothing I can do to possibly randomly hit it, and if I get hit twice... Okay, if you hit that thing twice, you just die, and you can't really prevent it. Thankfully, getting hit once means I'm alive, and I need to turn the sun off here while going across here to preserve my items, which gives me a good opportunity to refill health here, and we're good to go. Turn the sun off again. I'm just doing this, like I say, this helps preserve the lifespan of my items. Like, even just little moments where I don't need the sun on there, it really does help the item lifespan factor. Turn this lever on, and I'm going to switch to Sabata just here. Using this magic circle on the floor. Immediately as Sabata, I'm going to use a speed nut to get 30 seconds of increased movement speed, because Sabata moves a lot slower than Django. Despite his agility stat being a lot higher, he has armor on, which you can't remove, and it's very heavy, so it really slows him down. So having a speed nut on Sabata for this dungeon really speeds up his movement sections. And then I just use his zero shift ability as appropriate to teleport through hazards. Put around that one. Take that bird. And just disabling the sun as I go outside to, you know, again, Sabata doesn't need the sun while outdoors, so just best practice. Sabata does need the sun while indoors because it allows him to passively charge darkness while just going through. And also, once you switch back to Django there, dodging that black slime on the second visit is 100% consistent. As long as you are just holding right from gaining control on the warp circle and you have an armor equipped, Django will 100% of the time dodge the slime. Whereas if you don't have an armor equipped, he will always run into the slime. Killing those cockatrices there with a couple of wall knocks. They are extremely EXP dense. Those are 200 EXP each, which is huge at this point. Gonna now, for Sword Plus, use Black Django, so just gonna refill some health, switch to Dark, and I'm gonna menu to put on Soul, which I'm gonna need after, and put my strength points in. And now I need to go for a very precise kill here, so this is full focus. Okay, that's not ideal, but I can just finish off with Red Django. I saved like 7 seconds on my splits there. I literally can still PB, yeah. Kill that Wraith. Dash past before the Stone Golem gets in the way of the corner tile. 3 dashes, switch to Spear, hit the switch, go there, switch to Sabata. Zero shift on. Oh, I'm not playing at daytime, so I can't charge Darkness outdoors. Before I get off the elevator here, use the second speed nut so that Sabata can go fast. Gonna not worry about the sun being on for the brief moments that I'm outdoors here. Need to just destroy an enemy over here so that Django can progress. Triggers an elevator for Django. I'm going to shoot this enemy from far away 3 times. And we get this little puzzle here, where the brothers are going to be solving this puzzle together, rapid switching between the characters, where they need to keep flipping levers so they can get progressively further into the puzzle. So I am going to be rapidly switching the sun levels here, as well as I'm switching the brothers. Okay, pretty good. For the next puzzle that Django needs to solve, I'm going to skip this puzzle, quote-unquote, by switching to a enchant that otherwise doesn't really get used in the run, Rising Sun. It's one of the abilities that Django got when getting back his original form. You can use an entire energy bar to summon a blast of artificial light that temporarily enables sunlight even if you don't have a source of natural light. And it damages all undeads on the screen, such as the enemy that's moving around out of bounds here and normally requires a puzzle to kill to spawn the chest. And this outdoor screen that I'm going to come to here is now one of the most difficult screens in the entire run. Okay, now I need to survive the return journey. If I get hit by these flame jets, I die instantly. That should be good enough. There we go. Oh, that is really, really difficult. And it saves time over switching to Black Django to use bat form so that you can't be pushed off the ledges by the flame jets. Also, I read a hint panel there, and I need to remember 1 north. You brushed up on your Japanese so that you can learn this run, right? I need to use a power nut with Sabata. So on Django's side I got 1 north, and here I've got 2 east. And these are inverted because they refer to each other's panels, so that is 1 east and 2 north. Gonna switch to Black Django here, because I want to use Black Django for this fight. And I'm going to make sure I start this fight underneath the axe so that it doesn't just immediately chunk me, because that is really bad when that happens. Okay, good fight. That fight looks really simple, but when it goes out of control, it goes really, really out of control. So I'm always glad when that goes well. Got the frame perfect input they don't want? Come on, dude. That's literally a frame perfect input, and it is purely unhelpful. So I'm going to weaken the sun to no more than 8 here because I want this walkway to be active so I can take a shortcut. Those walkways are bugged and they do not appear if the sun gauge is over 8. So if it's 9 or 10, they just disappear. I hate this room with a passion because these enemies are designed by the devil. They randomly scramble your controls and drain your energy when they grab you, and I cannot handle the scrambled controls at all, so just like everything else on the run, just don't get hit. Easy game. Switch to dash. And use a power nut so that I can solve this last puzzle. Please move correctly. Alright. Menuing's hard. Alright. Need to equip Rising Sun here over Frost, switch back to Dash and go outside. So Django's side of Spiral Tower is now complete, and Sabata just needs to join him at the top. Thankfully, Sabata is basically 1 floor away, and just needs to solve 1 more puzzle, which is barely even a puzzle. And I've got plenty of energy to spam 0 shifts for the rest of the dungeon. Just need to fire 1 shot at an off-screen switch, and that opens Sabata's last door. And now I'm just going to 0 shift through the entire rest of the last room. I didn't estimate my energy usage very well. I could have used a couple more 0 shifts through the dungeon. I still need to do some more granular routing for exactly how many 0 shifts I can actually use there. Because we recently found that we were using an incorrect solution for the 2 brothers puzzle outdoors, where Sabata used a longer route that cost more energy, so I haven't really rerouted 0 shift after using the more optimal solution for that puzzle, which gives you more energy. So I absolutely need to switch to, fill to full energy for this fight. This is, a lot of people probably remember this as one of the most dangerous fights in the game. It's like a rematch against the main zombie vampire of the game, and is possessed by the main antagonist, Black Darin. Darin is really, really dangerous. I'm going to use Rising Sun as the fight begins to chunk him for 1500 damage, then use a couple of items to refill my energy, and if I perform this fight optimally, I'm going to be able to skip 2 cycles in this fight. You must select the second option here, or you get an instant bad ending. Doesn't even game over you or anything, you just instantly lose the game. Refill my energy. Now I'm going to play the fight in a particular way to control what he's doing. And once I get into the second phase of this fight, I'm going to go for a very precise quick kill, which if I misjudge the position on when he starts up his big Dark Orb attack, I need to go for a very precise pixel window on my positioning. If I get it wrong, I die instantly. And it's a very big loss. Like, it costs over a minute to die on this fight. So this is full focus time. I still have time to get in position, that's fine. Here we go. I'm alive, but I don't think I'm getting the quick kill now. Nope. Okay, so what happened there was I got too close. I'm just going to take this safe now. Oh, what do I even do here? Yeah, I'm really not used to missing the quick kill on that fight and needing to actually play the intended mechanics anymore, so I had to like really think, oh, what am I supposed to do here now? Okay, damn it. Alright, now I'm not PvPing, but still. Yeah, so I got like a pixel too close to dying there. But it's better than the alternative of being like a couple of pixels too far away, because then you get hit by the black orbs and you take like over 200 damage and get overkilled by like over 100% of your max health. Use a warp leaf to instantly leave. And instantly save and reset the game. Because again, I just want the Coffin to walk back to town on its own. You can just hold the soft reset command while saving the game. The soft reset command for this game is start, select A and B. And if you just hold all of those buttons while the game is saving, the game will not process the soft reset command until it's finished writing to the save file. I presume that's so that it prevents any possible save corruption. But it does mean that like you can just hold the soft reset command through a save and you'll always get a optimal like first frame reset. Very convenient. Now, I am not going to heal before doing this purification because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter whether I heal. If I get hit at all during this purification, I will die from full health. So it does not help me to take a heal here. And this is pretty precise, so I am going to be focusing decently. I also need some audio cues for when I do my hits here. Okay, good, first hit. Okay, that's fine. Get away! I'm playing safe. I don't care. Like I say, if I get hit during this purification, I die, so I don't even care that I took a slow cycle there. Again, I'm just going to prioritize survival here. I'm just going to survive here. Alright. Not a great purification, but like I say, taking any damage in that purification is an instant death. So, like, if I was on, like, you know, the run of my life, it will be possible for me to be over a minute ahead at this point. And then, if I just, like, you know, made a bad impulsive decision because I was getting greedy and like, oh no, I can get him, and then I just got hit there and died, it's like, well, alright, now I'm not on PB pace anymore. Because that's another event where, like, taking a hit and dying there costs, like, a minute. Easy. So, I think, yeah, especially in a marathon environment like this, I'm more than willing to just play safe and lose a few seconds for the sake of actually not dying during the fight. Turning the light off here for a couple of minutes, because this is a very long set of cutscenes where, like, there's just a lot of exposition, plot happening. Ringo died, sacrificed himself to get rid of Darin for good. And now the Ancestor piece under the city is fully awakening. We weren't able to stop it from awakening. Darin was able to do what he was doing at the top of Spiral Tower to help this Doomsday Beast awaken so it can help destroy the world. And so we get a lot of plot and cutscene here, which is like 2-3 minutes, so it's a good time to just let the LED cool down and limit my actual IRL UV exposure to delay the onset of the possible melanoma. I have actually had a medical checkup for that before, that's not a lie. Like, that's 100% true. Okay, put the light back on now. I'll just dash straight back to Spiral Tower. So because I didn't die in the dying fight, I don't have to go back to town and restock my inventory, which is really nice. That saved quite a bit of time. And I'm gonna have access to one more skylight on the first floor of the final dungeon, which is Undead Zone. So whereas Spiral Tower was going up into the sky, Undead Zone goes down into the earth. So in the first basement floor, I'm going to have a skylight that I can use halfway through. Beyond that point, there are no more skylights in this game. So I don't have access to life refills. I don't have access to charging sunlight by standing in the sunlight. All I have is the items in my inventory and the solar stations before each boss so that I can refill, and they have a limited balance. And if I die on these bosses, I will start rapidly chewing through that balance. So this is the last dungeon. The fights in this dungeon are probably, like, overall the hardest in the game, and the route pretty much demands that you don't really take deaths in this dungeon because of the limited number of resources you have to work with. So this is the one flaw of the game where you do actually need to use stealth mechanics. The game expects you to not get discovered, otherwise the doors lock. So I am actually taking care to not get seen. Okay, so there's two skylights, because there's a skylight at the start of that room, but it's the next skylight that I plan to use as part of the route. So I'm going to use this skylight when I'm done solving this puzzle to refill my life before I go on. Need to turn the sun down because there's a solar walkway in this room, and again, this does not appear if the sun is 9 or above. Okay, I needed to play safe there because I kind of messed up the back hit there. The idea is that by back hitting the enemy and stunning it, you can prevent it from being able to see Django as you're dashing in front of it. Turn the sun down again, because again there's a solar walkway in this next room. Get the key for the boss room, and now because this is a marathon run and I am not on PB pace anymore, I am 100% going to take a safety save before starting this boss fight. The sandworm can just randomly decide to kill you with basically no warning. It's going to dig underground after the fight begins, and it burrows around randomly. It can just decide to go over Django's position and fire a rock at an unreactable speed, and it will kill me from full health. So, just a safety save if that happens. Dash away. This is where it moves around randomly. There it is! Oh, get away! Do some damage to it and switch to Cloud. Oh my god. Alright. You just need to go for that hit full-blooded. Like, that hit looks really dangerous. Yes, it is really dangerous. If you miss, you just die. But you really need to hit it out of the air to make it vulnerable. Okay, first floor done. Success. I'm alive. Gonna recharge on the solar station before going to the second floor. 281 left in my balance. Every time I refill on the solar station, it costs 150 from my balance. I need to put on Flame, Earth, and Dynamite for this next floor. Yeah, sure, just erase the other mistakes from the run, and this is world record. Sure, yeah, exactly. I'm glad you understand. I'm going to use Dynamite on this lamp because the timing for having all the lamps lit simultaneously in this room is actually very strict. But if you use dynamite on the first lamp, it gives you a much more generous buffer. Makes the puzzle, like, free, as the kids say. I hate that term. Now gonna just dash through these dark rooms, and need to use spear and flame to light 2 of these platforms. There you go. Another solo walkway in the next room, so I'm gonna pull away and switch to hammer and dash. Hammer and dash, thank you, game. Alright. Some back up. There is a armor in a hidden room just to the west of me, which we used to get in the route, but I have stopped getting because it takes time to get, and the entire point of this last dungeon is just don't get hit. We used to think that it increased damage because it is supposed to increase the damage done by Element Dark at night, but that doesn't stack with the actual night multiplier, so it's like, yeah, whatever. Lich. This is one of my least favorite fights in the whole game. You have very limited visibility, these lightning orbs move around like randomly. That's a very good start, though, I've got to say. Shouldn't have taken that risk. I'm not risking that. Thundercloud's bad. Don't get hit by thunderclouds. They kill you in 1 hit. Yeah, I need that key before I leave. Come on. Alright, floor 3. This is a really good Undead Zone so far, actually. I mean, I'm bleeding like a few, like, seconds per floor from, like, playing safe in the boss fights, but not dying is very, very good. So, floor 3. Ice puzzles. You know, it's an RPG adjacent run. Of course it's got an ice puzzle somewhere. And this is the only part of the run where I'm going to use an actual quote-unquote skip. You'll have noted that this is a basically glitchless game, but there is one, like, short skip that I'm going to use here by using dynamite to actually get Django recoiled into a specific part of an ice floor puzzle so that I can skip some intended rooms. So I'm going to set dynamite exactly here, move into this position, turn the sun down so that the dynamite doesn't damage me as much, and, yep, get to just go straight to the solution here. Because Django gets hit, like, outwards into the ice, which allows you to take a very non-intended path here. Was not discovered by me, because I came to this game pretty late. Most of the actual skeleton of the routing was definitely done by older runners, such as, like, you know, Dr. Hell and Coalescence. Coalescence had the record in this game for, like, 8 years. Like, Koa's run, the 159 on the route that it used, was honestly really strong, and it stood for a very long time. Until, like, the complete reroute happened. And that guy's just a demon for documenting how this game works. Like, all of the documentation on game mechanics and stuff has basically been Coa's work. Okay, Serpent. So I'm going to use dynamite here, partway through the first attack, so that when it goes underwater, it's going to immediately surface. We don't exactly know why, but it is consistent. Hey, where are you going? Gonna make it surface again, and I'm pause buffering at each... Oh, you... I'm not using a curse word. I'm a good boy. I almost dashed... Well, not dashed, but I almost moved straight off the edge there. And... Okay, I can just finish it off with the spear. When it surfaces. Yeah, there's no guardrails around the edge of this arena. If you just go on... If you, walk into the water, you just die instantly. So, I almost did that by accident. Okay, that was the first floor, which was, like, just bad. I lost, like, 16 seconds on my splits there, because the Serpent is just really RNG heavy, and a lot of the time it just really does not behave like that. I at least didn't die, but, yeah. It's very easy to lose a lot of time there, just because the Serpent doesn't really cooperate with where it jumps. And you specifically need to target the tail, which is its weak point. Alright, last puzzle floor. Now on B4, the fire floor. I have just enough energy to do a full refill on the soul station. Very convenient. as, like I say, the energy is really strictly rooted here. Like, you can't afford to, like, just take multiple deaths on bosses in this dungeon and just keep refilling after leaving the room over and over. Like, you literally cannot afford to do it, in the literal sense. Switch to Earth there, and then switch to Dash after deleting the block. Hello? I'm going to go for a pretty precise trick here. Nice. Got in front before the clay golem rolled. Gonna use a really precise hit here with Spear and Frost to extinguish those, then switch to Sleeping so that I can use the Coffin, specifically the Elephant Coffin, to fire a shot into that switch. Because you'll notice, if you're familiar with these games, after beating Black Darin and purifying him, I didn't get the Gun Del Sol back, because it's terrible, and you never want to use it. Whoops, why did I do that? So, in lieu of not having a gun, you do need to use... Oh, also, always grab Solar Bugs for refills. Very handy. Yeah, if you need to fire shots, which you're supposed to on Serpent's floor, and you need to there on Lich Plus floor, the only way you can do that without the Solar Gun is by using the Elephant Coffin, which coincidentally is the fastest coffin to use because it teleports back to town. Okay, I'm going to make sure I get this chest here as a Solar Nut, which I will kind of need after this fight. Should be able to just about fill here. Yep. Okay, Lich Plus. This fight is simple if it goes correctly. Not a great start, but at least I'm alive. So by intentionally damage boosting into the back of the boss, I get put in the correct position automatically to not get hit by this rotating flame attack, and it allows me to just wail on the boss with back hits. And yes, I do need to manually refill energy multiple times in this fight. Like, you just need to do this. I actually need to be careful here. Okay, that was scary and dangerous at the end, but whatever. That was a pretty slow fight, but I'm at least alive. Now refill my energy one more time. Put in my strength points and equip Dark over Frost, and go mode for the end of the game. So now entering the final floor of the game, where the Ancestor piece is sealed. Just need to dash through a few rooms, avoiding some enemies, and then it's the final boss of the game. So, if you know, like, the antagonists of this game, the 4 immortals known as White Daire, Red Daire, Blue Dvalin, and Black Darin, if you are familiar at all with your Norse mythology, you will know that those 4 names, Dain, Daire, Dvalin, and Daire, they are like the 4 stags in Norse mythology that nibble at the world tree Yggdrasil. So this game has like very heavy connections to Norse mythology, and they're trying to awaken a primordial doomsday beast, which is sleeping underneath the city. So if you are, if you are brushed up with your Norse mythology, then you can enlighten people in the chat as to what the quote-unquote doomsday beast is in Norse mythology. Other one. Who is a very hungry boy who wants to eat the world? There you go, Jormungand. So the final boss of this run, the Ancestor piece, which they're trying to resurrect, is the Great Serpent Jormungand. Big Sneck, yes, exactly. He has a tongue. We will hit the tongue. And then he will make funny, trumpety noises. Because he doesn't like his tongue getting hit. So, this fight is dangerous. If I make a mistake, I'll pretty much die on the spot. You need to start by disabling Jormungand's eyes. And once you disable the eyes, the tongue will come out and be the weak spot for a few hits. I'm also going to try and get extra damage on the body at certain points so that I can get his health to specific points between cycles and hopefully skip bad cycles. I'm also going to use the sunscreen that I picked up over an hour ago because I need to do this fight as Black Django, and I can't really afford to get hit by the sun. And this gives me 60 seconds of no damage in the sun. So I now have 60 seconds to finish this fight before Django starts melting in the sunlight. Okay, his head didn't behave and put him in a position where I could cleave the body and the tongue, but otherwise that was a very good fight. It's not quite the end of run yet, because there is one more quick time event. Django gets glomped once again. I mean, mega glomped this time. And the characters of the city, the cast of the game, are able to apply the seals to reforge the chains to keep Jormungand in place. So Jormungand's going to get chained up again, and there's one more quick time event where you have to charge enough sunlight to burn up Jormungand from the inside. You have 10 seconds to do it before Django gets swallowed, and it's an instant bad ending. And this is the epitome of none of the mechanics in this game were tuned for 10 sunlight. So it's going to go back to Jormungand, you're going to see chains. There's going to be a life bar, and then time is when the life bar hits 0. And it comes up much faster than you would expect if you are not familiar with the values in this game. So I am getting ready on time here. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Seriously. Time. 1:48? 1:48 for a marathon run? Oh my word. That is... Considering I... Alright, hang on. How much did I exactly lose? So I lost 1 minute and 12 on the Daire fight. And I finished 1 minute and 18 behind. So, like, if I just hadn't made that one massive blunder in the first boss because I was trying to execute something extremely difficult, I would have been within seconds of my PB, and my PB is the existing world record. So, that was a really, really good run overall, and this is one of the first times that I've actually played while fluidly commentating everything that I'm doing, so... God, wow, new experience, and I was not sure at all how this was going to go, how I was going to perform, but I'm really glad that it went as well as I did, and I wasn't exactly feeling confident after that first boss and, like I say, blundering like I did, so I'm really glad that I was able to pull off the rest of it, and hopefully give you guys a good showing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if anyone is at all interested in this game, like, you know, if you were watching this and thinking like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, which was my reaction when I first learned that people speedrun this series. I had this specific game as a kid and never played any other game in the series, so when I learned that, you know, there was a speedrun route for Boktai 2 and it's something people did on real hardware, I was like, that is the coolest concept I've ever heard of. I'm eventually going to learn this game. And I did eventually learn this game. I procrastinated over learning this game for years because partly the, you know, hardware logistics and also the old world record route that Koa had before I started really knocking the new route into shape at the start of the year. It was a very difficult route. Like, I noted earlier in the run that it's like, oh, if you die and lose money, you can't really afford stuff later in the run. That is doubly true on the old route. The previous route for this game more or less demands that you don't die anywhere, because money is much more strictly rooted and you don't do as many save and resets, so it's like, if you die anywhere in the early game, it's like, well, you are just not going to have good interest rates and compound interest for when you do the couple of save and resets you actually do. So it was a big problem and it was a brutally difficult run, which was part of my procrastination for a lot of years. But I think the game is in a really good state now. It's a lot more consistent now. It's like, you know, the fact that I do such an early save and reset, it really gives so much more buffer for being able to at least afford to take deaths. The fights go by really fast with the katana if you manage to manipulate it successfully. I'm so glad that I got that first try. Like I say, it's a soft reset and then it's hitting an 8-frame window from power on, which is difficult to hit even with a timer assisting. And I'm talking through the credits just so that I can progress one more screen and get to the final statistics screen, which will show the IGT for the run. This game isn't timed by IGT, but it's nonetheless an interesting secondary metric, so I just want to see what my IGT is. And lastly, I guess, again, as I'm saying, if you're interested in all in this game series, want to actually look into speedrun these games, please do join the server. Everyone does this, like, plugs the Discord server. The Boktai speedrunning community is one of the best communities I've ever had the privilege of being part of. The amount of knowledge and dedication of the few runners that these games have is like nothing else I've ever seen. For such an obscure game series, the runners absolutely love it and are so dedicated to getting every bit of information they can out of these games, and they are so helpful and collaborative. This has been an absolute blast to be a part of, and to be part of the weekly ongoing like routing process. Like, you know, we have weekly voice calls each Saturday where we just go over stuff, and they are always really productive. Everyone's just so helpful, so I can't thank enough people like Dr. Hell, Rafi, Coalescence, Shanef, for all the work that they've done in helping knock this route into shape. Like, I have the world record, sure, but the way I always express it is, I'm just the guy who presses the buttons. I happen to be the best at, you know, doing the input sequences, but I'm standing on the shoulders of giants as far as getting times in this game. Like, I wouldn't be anywhere near the level I am without all the work that everyone else does. So I'm super grateful to all the other guys for how dedicated they are for these games, and I'm very grateful to RPG Limit Break, Questing for Glory staff for allowing me the opportunity to showcase this run. I'm gonna stop going on. Like, I'm kind of filling some time because I'm aware how underestimate this was, but I think I can do worse than letting everyone get set up for the next game, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Like I say, this has been an absolute pleasure. If you're at all interested in these games, please do contact me or join the Boktai speedrunning server, which you can find through the speedrun.com leaderboards. I'd be more than happy to welcome people, and yeah, thank you guys very much. I'm going to hop out and let you guys get set up for the next run, so everyone please enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will catch you all later.